You all have seen the press statement, but let me just summarize just briefly. I think we feel like, again, as when we were here last in September, the economy is growing very strong, and clearly inflation is under control. The one thing that we've seen in the last 3 months is that the current account, the trade deficit, has widened, and credit growth has been more rapid than we had hoped. We had hoped to see a slowdown of credit growth and a narrowing of the trade deficit. That didn't materialize. So one of the key focuses of this mission is to discuss with the government their strategy against this. We've had a very productive round of discussions, and I think there's a common understanding that this challenge should be addressed. We feel like, in the sense that the widening of the trade deficit is a product of the boost in confidence in the post-war environment, with consumer and investor inputs growing more rapidly than hoped. So in a sense, this challenge comes out of economic success. I think, as I mentioned, I think there's a common understanding of what the issue is, and is taking price and taking actions. I think we've already seen monetary policy statement this morning, taking actions to bring about a sustainable current account deficit going forward. So with that, I think maybe I should take your questions.
Question here. Your statement says that there was broad agreement that a decisive policy response was needed. So what exactly do you mean by decisive policy response?
Well, I think our position on this has been consistent, that we think there needs to be a broad, the government needs to take advantage of all of its policy instruments, a deficit reduction, further deficit reduction, efforts to tighten credit growth, and we also feel like a more flexible exchange rate should be part of the package. I think the key to emphasize here is that we'd like to see, and we have seen some steps in this direction, for a qualitative shift in the policy stance of the government, and I think the importance here is that policies act nimbly to address the situation. Their flexibility, I think, is the key in both monetary, fiscal, and exchange rate policy.
Does that mean the IMF is satisfied with the flexibility they have given on the foreign exchange rate? 3% devaluation and then today's 20 cents?
I think the 3% devaluation was a step in the right direction in terms of a first step to try to address the issue. We've seen some flexibility today, and we'll just have to see how the economic situation evolves and how the policy response, how policies respond to those developments. I think it's too early to make any definitive statements.
How do you see the central bank intervention on the foreign exchange market? They have almost spent more than $1 billion since the devaluation.
Well,
I mean, is it real flexibility? I mean, after 3% devaluation, they have been maintaining one rate. Mm-hmm. Does that mean, is it? Do you consider it as flexible exchange rate?
No, I think we want to, going forward, we'd like to see, again, the exchange rate policy and monetary policy, fiscal, respond flexibly going forward. The position that we have now is the same as what we had before, which is the economic fundamentals the widening of the current account deficit call for a policy response.
Your release states that you look forward to moving towards completion of the next review of the standby already. But the news that we get from the Sri Lankan news is that from the central bank and the government is that they have not yet pursued obtaining their remaining $800 million at the final installment. So what are your views on that?
Well, the IMF. I mean, once as you know, I mean, we've completed 6 reviews so far. Once we complete a review, there's 2 more remaining, right? As you alluded to, the $800 million remaining. Once we complete a review, then the money is made available to the government. It's up to them to decide whether they want to draw the disbursement or not. At this point, there's been no concrete discussions with the government about their plans for drawing or not with us. But it's up to the government. It's not really it's not our decision, and we don't have a view on it.
Okay. Do you think that it's very important to remain in the IMF program rather than going for commercial borrowing?
That's up to the government. I mean, we stand ready to support the government throughout the remaining period of the standby program.
Dr. Excel, what you're saying is, even though Sri Lanka decides not to draw the remaining tranches, the program can still continue and be concluded.
That's right.
So what you have discussed this mission, also going with what you said in the statement, do you think the review could conclude successfully, or is there more that we need to?
Well, what we're looking for, and what we have been looking for as part of the review, is that the policy actions that the government takes are sufficient to turn around this current account deficit and put it on a sustainable basis, and reduce substantially the need for foreign exchange intervention. So that's what we're looking for in terms of concluding the review. And the central bank has taken some actions in that direction, which we think are appropriate to limit credit growth going forward. That's one step and one piece in the government's package for addressing what we would be looking for to complete the review.
The current account deficit, how would you describe the current position, the current situation that the Sri Lankan economy is facing?
With the current account deficit. Well, we see exports have been strong, and remittances have been strong. Despite that, I mean, we've seen a pickup of imports across the board, both consumer items, investment goods, and intermediate goods. So the current account deficit really is being fueled by this import growth that's associated, I think, with the strong economic growth. That's how we see the situation at present. Now, going forward, in order to rebalance the economy, that's where the policy package comes in.
So would you consider it a crisis, a problem, or something that's not so serious?
No, I mean, it obviously can't continue at the levels that we see in 2011. But as opposed to 2009, where there was with the global crisis causing a significant outflows of capital from Sri Lanka, we don't see the situation is that acute. That's why the government, in a sense, has the policy space at the moment to manage the transition towards a more sustainable current account. In 2009, we saw that the policy space was very limited.
Central bank may go for another sovereign bond later this year. What do you say are chances would be of getting a better rate?
Well, Sri Lanka has been quite successful in the last couple of years in terms of having their Eurobond issues being oversubscribed. So over the last couple of years, there's been quite a bit of external appetite for the Eurobonds. Obviously, you know, a lot of this year depends on how the global financial environment plays out. I think, you know, regardless of the specific situation in Sri Lanka, I mean, it's going to be more challenging under the current global financial environment with the problems that the Euro area faces and that sort of thing. So there could be challenges this year, but in the past there has been a strong appetite for Sri Lankan Euro bonds.
So if the government is going for a bond issue, I mean, how is important the remaining the IMF program to build up the investor confidence?
Well, I mean, there is a difference between IMF disbursements and Euro bonds. Our disbursements go towards central bank reserves, whereas the Euro bond is used as an instrument to finance the government's budget deficit. So there is a difference in how these instruments are used. Again, I mean, it comes back to the issue of whether the government chooses to draw the disbursements if we were in a situation where we could complete.
From what you have seen, does the government of Sri Lanka actually need to draw down the balance, or you think they can manage without it?
Well, I think that's up to the government at this stage.
What's your view on that?
Well, at this stage, I mean, as the monetary policy statement noted this morning, at the end of 2011, reserves stood at $6 billion. Now, if you compare that to the $800 million that remains under the IMF program, at this stage, I mean, it's a bit early to say whether, you know, in our view, they could utilize the IMF disbursements or not. But I don't think the reserves are so acute that you know, it would tip the balance of my view one way.
The government has put also, in addition to raising rates, they have also put credit. They have put a credit ceiling. I know that IMF doesn't like kind of import duties. Those kind of things are discouraged. Are credit ceilings like encouraged or neutral or discouraged instead of in place of rates?
It's one instrument the central bank has. I mean, it's one instrument to ensure that the policy rate increase is consistent with the slowdown of credit growth. The central bank, I think we regard it as a good thing that the central bank has signaled that they would like to see a slowdown of credit growth. And part of that, the two instruments, part of that is policy rates, part of that is you know, a strong signal from the central bank in terms of the credit growth per se.
In terms of the reserves that we borrow from the IMF, can we use it to repay external debt?